Their unlikely romance was filled with fiery passion.
He was an older gentleman that was enamored with a younger lady.
Every time I saw them together, you couldn't get a $5 bill between them.
But on a hot summer day, one of them was murdered in cold blood.
There were 6 wounds, but 4 at least were shots.
To discover the truth, detectives must untangle a sordid web of lust and lies.
Papa was a Rolling Stone? Yeah, that was him.
When last time you tapped it?
Oh, man.
And buried beneath it all is a terrible secret that will leave both a family and community awash in tragedy.
I seen something wrapped in sheets. Fuck away from him.
Just felt like he ripped my heart and my backbone out.
He's shocked. He's disgusted. He's like, what have you brought me into?
June 23rd, 2009, 10:50 a.m. It's a sweltering summer morning in Lake City, Florida. All over town, AC units are humming as residents try desperately to beat the heat. But at one local home, the air conditioning unit is deadly silent as 2 officers approach the front door of local resident Tommy Kellum.
Police have received an anonymous tip that the person who lives at the home might be in trouble.
A pungent stench permeates the air.
As soon as the officers approached the front door, they were just about knocked over by the foul odor.
Smell it?
They could smell what they knew to be decomposition of something.
Sheriff's Department! Go ahead and start me a backup unit.
Dispatch notifies the homicide unit, and within minutes, detectives from the Columbia County Sheriff's Office are on scene.
The crime scene was being secured until we were able to obtain a search warrant.
What we got? We smell decomp coming from the house.
Just as detectives are about to make entry, the homeowner's daughter, Cassandra Kellum, arrives on the scene.
2 young ladies in town that I'm close to told me to pack a bag and get on the road right now. Police at your dad's house.
It's in a small neighborhood when there's crime scene tape and a lot of blue lights. It draws attention. People show up. People call.
As Cassandra looks on, police force open the front door of her father's residence. Once inside, investigators immediately discover something truly disturbing.
They find a rug rolled up, and in that rug is an older man.
You got a body.
We were able to indicate that the person who was deceased is in fact Mr. Kellum.
They don't want to tell me that it's my daddy. They can't let me see him because he's decomposed.
76-year-old Tommy Lee Kellum was not your average senior citizen.
He's not no sit on the porch kind of grandpa. He was very young at heart.
He always dressed nice. You might see him on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and he has on clothes that some people wear just on Sunday.
But Tommy was just as comfortable getting a little dirt under his nails as he was getting dressed up in his Sunday best.
He was always going outdoors, whether it be fishing, camping.
In his prime, Tommy had channeled his love for the outdoors into a rewarding, if sometimes backbreaking, career.
He worked for the Forestry Service, cutting trees and cruising timber.
He was a hardworking man.
I wanted to be just like him. I didn't want to be Superman and the policeman and the fireman. I wanted to be Uncle Tommy Lee just like him.
But for all of Tommy's strengths, fidelity was not one of them. Though his first marriage lasted nearly 20 years, during that time, Tommy enjoyed the company of several different girlfriends.
He was a very nice-looking man, and he loved women, and women loved him.
He got around. It wasn't a secret. You know, Papa was a Rolling Stone. Yeah.
Despite his wandering eye, Tommy's family was always a priority.
He was a man that took care of the family, took care of the house. He worked hard.
And he would do stuff that was over the top. He'll be like, let me slide you $5. And then he might slide me like $50 or $100. Like, you know, I'm looking at it like, you know, me cuff this. We ain't gonna let nobody see it. It's, you know, in between me and my granddaddy.
He was good as gold. He would give you the shirt off his back. If he could help you, he would.
On his 70th birthday, after 40 years in the forestry industry, Tommy decided to retire. And this young at heart Casanova wanted his golden years to be the best time of his life.
Dad used to go to the American Legion on Sunday.
The American Legion is an organization for veterans, and he liked to socialize at the local chapter on the weekend.
They would sit and play spades like that was their thing.
Mr. Daddy Warbucks, I see you won.
And when 40-year-old Brenda Watson sauntered up to a card game at the American Legion back in 2003, she immediately caught Tommy's attention.
She was 30 years younger than Tommy, but that didn't stop him from hitting on her. He liked younger women.
How come I haven't seen you before?
I get around.
Like Tommy, Brenda fared pretty well with the opposite sex.
She had a lot of guys that liked her.
She was from Fort Lauderdale, a little bit of a party girl.
She's in her 40s, so she definitely still has her groove.
Within weeks, this unlikely pair had fallen hard for each other.
She made him feel alive.
She loved him. She fell up on the Kellum spell.
Every time I saw them together, you couldn't get $5 bill between them.
Hi, sweetheart.
Unlike Tommy's previous relationships, he and Brenda remained inseparable.
She just always wanted to be up under my granddaddy. She wanted to go with him to the store. She wanted to go with him everywhere.
Despite Tommy and Brenda's obvious chemistry, Tommy's family was still caught a bit off guard when in 2008, their favorite silver-haired playboy decided to tie the knot one more time.
They went to the courthouse. I was shocked.
Things moved pretty quickly between these two. Before you know it, they married.
For the next year, it was nothing but wedded bliss for this couple. Tommy was truly on cloud nine.
But on this sweltering summer day in 2009, it's clear Tommy Kellum's life has come to an abrupt and brutal end.
There had possibly been a homicide at the residence.
It just felt like you ripped my heart at my backbone at the same time.
I thought my granddaddy was going to be old man, get sick and die,
The brutal scene is especially shocking for a quiet town like Lake City.
The city and the county, you may average 1 to 2 homicides a year.
As word of Tommy's murder spreads, so do the questions.
Everybody was like, where's Brenda?
Why we can't get in touch with Brenda?
Is there another body somewhere else? Has Brenda been harmed? Is she another victim in this?
But as detectives ponder that question, information begins to surface that suggests Tommy and Brenda had more than a few skeletons in their closet, which put their relationship and their lives in extreme jeopardy. After a lifetime as a lovable playboy, 76-year-old Tommy Kellum had finally found a woman that could quench his desires, 45-year-old Brenda Watson.
They had a love that was fiery. She made him feel young again, and that's why he was with her.
But on the morning of June 23, 2009, that fire is snuffed out in the most horrifying way.
Police found the deceased, Mr. Kellum. He's wrapped up in a rug in his hallway area of his home.
No one knows where Brenda is, and so the police are now dealing with both a homicide and a missing persons case. And then to top it all off, they don't have a clear motive.
Was this a robbery? Was something missing? They had so many questions to find out why someone would want to harm Tommy Kellum.
Can we unroll the rug, please?
The medical examiner clears up some of that mystery when he unwraps Tommy's body.
They found several gunshot wounds in his head and his torso throughout his body.
There were 6 wounds, but 4 at least were shots. 2 could have been shots or could have been exit wounds from the 4 shots.
The excessive amount of bullet wounds could mean Tommy had been fighting for his life, yet investigators find no signs he'd try to escape.
It was not the cleanest, but it didn't look like there was a lot of broken stuff in the house from a struggle.
Which leads detectives to another conclusion.
The person who killed this man wanted to make sure that he was dead.
The level of decomposition also gives the medical examiner an idea of how long Tommy's been dead.
They determined the body had been there for approximately 3 to 4 days.
I love messages. Where you at? What's going on with you? You can't talk to me. Now I know why.
Having determined both the cause of Tommy's death and the time frame within which it occurred, investigators begin scouring the apartment for more evidence.
They're looking around the scene and they do spot 2 .22 caliber shell casings.
But arguably, it's what's missing from the scene that provides the most telling clue.
Empty gun rack.
Dad, he had a gun rack up on the wall. There was no guns. They were all gone.
What do you think?
Robbery, maybe? Maybe. Hey, officer.
Yes, sir.
Did you find any wallet or keys?
No, sir.
His wallet's gone, and inside that wallet were credit cards. There were debit cards, all gone.
There was no vehicle on premises when we got here.
Tommy's red truck was also missing from the home's driveway.
He's 76 years old and could be an easy target for someone who, say, wanted a quick fix.
My Uncle Tommy used to keep money on him. Maybe somebody had robbed him and killed him and just left him in the house.
Armed with this information, detectives return to the station and issue a statewide APB on Tommy's missing truck. They also request a warrant for Tommy's credit card statement and bank records.
If the cards have been used, police can use that transaction information to track down where the killer might be.
In the meantime, detectives focus on answering the other big questions surrounding the case: the whereabouts and welfare of Tommy's missing wife, Brenda.
Judging by the scene, it's possible Brenda Watson is a victim as well. When Tommy was robbed and murdered, that the intruder may have kidnapped Brenda.
Police decided to gather Tommy's family and ask them if they have any idea where Brenda might be.
I know this is difficult, but any information you have would be a great deal of help. Now, I understand Tommy was married to Brenda Watson. We can't seem to locate her. Do you guys know where she is?
No, sir. We have no idea.
No. Tommy's family might not know where Brenda is, but they do reveal a shocking tidbit about the relationship. One that Tommy and Brenda had kept secret from everyone but Tommy's closest relatives.
But you know what? I don't know if you know or not, but Granddaddy and Miss Brenda had a unique living arrangement.
What do you mean?
My dad and Brenda lived in the same house, but they were divorced. Brenda's his ex-wife.
So when did this happen?
1 year almost to the month and day. When my father called me and said that, I filed for my divorce and I went to court.
She had poor spending habits. It used to be a couple issues with that, her not having the money and him just really not caring.
Tommy's family claimed that many of the couple's friends and neighbors didn't even realize that they'd split up, especially since Tommy and Brenda stuck it out as roommates with benefits.
I just think it was purely sexual. He didn't have to go anywhere to get it. He had it in-house. She was just a convenience.
She had her own space. He had his own room. He kept his door locked. They had their own thing.
For investigators, this shocking revelation makes finding Brenda Watson more important than ever. In an effort to do that, they circle back to their first clue, the anonymous tip that led police to Tommy's body.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to report a tip about a dead body.
This actually began with the Broward County Sheriff's Office, Fort Lauderdale, maybe a little over 300 miles. They got a call, and so they contacted our local sheriff's office.
When that anonymous tipster called police, he not only stated that there was a body at this address, which turned out to be factual, but he also mentioned that there was a specific person involved with this crime.
Yeah, Jacob Locke.
So now police are wondering who this Jacob Locke is and why he would have issue with a 76-year-old man.
Jacob Locke was a primary suspect at this particular time.
That evening, detectives run Jacob Locke's name through a national crime database. Immediately, they get a hit.
They find out that he is a convicted felon. In fact, he's gone to prison before.
He had an incarceration record for attempted murder in the first degree, for which he had served 6 years for that conviction alone. But he had been out on parole since 2005.
So we assumed he was certainly culpable of something serious, whether it be grand theft or it be murder, that he was up to no good.
Detectives put out an all-points bulletin for Jacob Locke that stretches across the entire southeastern United States. But no sooner has the bulletin been issued than investigators receive a juicy tip that will blow the case wide open.
They not only stated that these ex-spouses still lived together, but that Brenda might have been seeing someone else.
This immediately leads police to wonder if Jacob Locke might be Brenda's boyfriend.
Could Brenda's disappearance and Tommy's murder be the result of a love triangle gone bad?
In Lake City, Florida, police have discovered 76-year-old Tommy Kellum shot to death and rolled up in a rug inside his own home. Tommy's live-in ex-wife, 45-year-old Brenda Watson, is also missing. And though police have no idea where she is or what may have happened to her, thanks to an anonymous tipster, Investigators have already zeroed in on a possible suspect in Tommy's murder.
Broward County Sheriff's Office received a Crime Stopper tip from an individual who named Jacob Lott.
They put an APB on him, and now they were just waiting for him to be picked up so they could question him.
But before police can pinpoint Jacob Lock's whereabouts, detectives receive another tip from Tommy and Brenda's neighbors. Apparently, even though Tommy worked hard to keep up the appearance that he and Brenda were still married, Brenda hadn't been quite as vigilant when it came to keeping their unique arrangement a secret.
She was seeing another man.
They learned that these ex-spouses still lived together, but that Brenda might have been seeing someone else.
Investigators wonder if Brenda's mystery lover might be Jacob Lock.
The tip that Jacob Lock was a person of interest in this case came from Fort Lauderdale, and Brenda's originally from Fort Lauderdale.
However, for Tommy and Brenda's neighbors, the name Jacob Lock doesn't ring a bell.
Doesn't sound familiar.
In fact, the neighbors tell police that the man they'd seen Brenda hanging out with was a married man from the neighborhood named Edward Adams.
He comes to the attention of law enforcement. It could have been her boyfriend killed Tommy.
Speaking with neighbors, investigators wonder if Tommy had gotten upset with Brenda's inability, or perhaps unwillingness, to keep the affair with Edward Adams under wraps.
Even though Tommy and Brenda had divorced, they were still sleeping together, and many people had suspected that Tommy still had feelings for Brenda.
Uncle Tommy Lee had an in-your-face attitude. You know, if he liked you, you knew it. If he didn't like you, you made sure you know that as well.
Maybe Edward and Tommy got into a fight over Brenda that ended violently.
The following morning, detectives track down Edward Adams and bring him to the station for an interview.
He kind of claims that he's just a neighbor that knows there's this problem.
You know what's going on? I got a friend girl that's missing, and her old man is dead.
Edward told police he was worried about Brenda ever since he learned about the murder.
I heard everything, what was going on around there, and I called, and she not answering the phone.
When the last time you talked with her?
Oh, I seen her Saturday morning.
The last time he saw Brenda was on Saturday, June 20th.
June 20th was also the day that police suspected Tommy must have been killed.
That's a pretty significant day. Yeah. She was going to get her something to eat, and we passed each other on 90. So we had pulled over and we talked.
Hey, gorgeous, what you doing out?
Hey, we gotta stop meeting.
They chatted a little bit, and then the two went about their business.
What's your relationship?
I've been knowing her. She's been a friend of mine for, like I say, about 30 years.
Friends?
Sex? No, friends. I done tapped it probably years ago, but gosh, man, that's a good-looking gal.
Several of Brenda's neighbors have already told police they've seen Edward sneaking over to Brenda's house when Tommy wasn't there, so detectives aren't buying his friendship story.
Okay, the street committee. When last time you tapped it?
Oh, man.
Hey, you gotta be honest.
It's probably been about 2 weeks ago.
When law enforcement asked Edward why he lied, he says, well, he's married and he didn't want his wife to find out.
And I put that in the papers that I tapped it. I got a wife.
Edward Adams' desire to keep his affair with Brenda a secret makes detectives wonder, is it possible Edward murdered Tommy, and perhaps Brenda as well, in order to make sure word of the affair never made it back to his wife? Edward insists he had nothing to do with Tommy's murder or Brenda's disappearance, and claims to have an alibi for the day Tommy was shot.
He was with his wife and kids all day.
They check Edward's alibi. They find out that it is completely clear. It's true.
That made him a cheater. It didn't make Edward necessarily a murderer.
Police inform Edward he's free to go. But just before he leaves the station, Edward offers detectives an important new clue.
He tells investigators that he's confident that Tommy wouldn't care about his fling with Brenda because Tommy was preoccupied with his own relationship.
Edward tells police that word on the street was Tommy rekindled a romance with an old flame.
He went back to his ex-girl or something, and
who went back?
Tommy was going to see his ex-girl or something.
Police are now wondering, is this other woman involved in this crime?
When investigators circle back to Tommy's family, they learn there's truth to the rumor.
Yeah, him and Aunt Helen actually were trying to talk again.
Who is Helen?
According to Tommy's family, Helen was a woman that Tommy dated sporadically, beginning around the time of his first marriage.
Helen was a woman who had been with Tommy on and off for several years, and split for the final time not long before he met Brenda.
However, Tommy's family explains that once he and Brenda divorced and entered into their roommates with benefits arrangement, Helen quietly re-entered the picture. As for whether or not Helen could have killed Tommy, his family tells police there's no way.
Absolutely not.
They all claim Helen was a wonderful, kind older woman who adored Tommy and would never harm a hair on his head.
Helen wasn't that kind of person that you had to hate. She wasn't even the kind of person that you had to dislike. She was beautiful all around.
In fact, the family tells detectives that the only person in Tommy's life that didn't adore Helen was Brenda.
Brenda knew that he had a past with Helen.
Brenda had a issue with Miss Helen that you wouldn't believe. It was like she hated this lady.
That's when Tommy's family unloads another bombshell. One that reveals just how far Brenda was willing to go to prevent Tommy and Helen from seeing each other.
The year before they had an incident, she shot my granddaddy.
So what's up with you going to Helen's house?
I needed to stop by.
What do you need from Helen? You can't get from here? You can't get it from me?
They were arguing, and during this argument is when Brenda pulled the gun on Tommy.
You bad? You bad? What, you think you bad now?
He tried to take the gun from Brenda, and it discharged.
She was arrested and charged with aggravated battery.
According to Tommy's family, the gunshot wound was serious enough to require an extended hospital stay. But even though Brenda had almost killed him, Tommy refused to press charges.
He did not want to press charges on her. I was outdone. Like, what do you mean?
He had a giant heart. He couldn't see her go to jail.
Though charges were never filed, the incident raises an enormous red flag with detectives.
There was a history there of her acting in a violent manner. That was a big warning sign.
Maybe she's not missing. Maybe she's on the run.
As investigators plot additional ways to possibly locate Brenda, the subpoena on Tommy's stolen credit and debit cards finally comes through.
We start looking at transactions after his suspected time of death.
And they realized that the cards, despite him being dead, were still being used. They find out that large amounts of money have been taken out in multiple locations. This includes a Greyhound bus station in Fort Lauderdale.
But the ATM withdrawal isn't the only connection to the Fort Lauderdale bus station.
A call comes in. Tommy Kellum's red pickup truck had been found at a Greyhound bus station in Fort Lauderdale.
This is all very interesting to detectives because Fort Lauderdale is the place where the anonymous call originated, tipping police off to Tommy's murder and naming Jacob Locke in connection with the crime.
Armed with this information, and with both Brenda Watson and Jacob Locke still nowhere to be found, detectives reach out to the bus station in Fort Lauderdale for assistance.
They're not sure at this point what they'll find. The mysterious Jacob Locke, Brenda Watson, another culprit.
They're hoping the red truck provides the crucial evidence that lets them know who killed Tommy Kellum and what happened to Brenda Watson.
It's been 3 days since 76-year-old Florida native Tommy Kellum was shot to death in the home he shared with his 45-year-old ex-wife, Brenda Watson. With Brenda nowhere to be found, detectives reach out to a bus station in Fort Lauderdale, where Tommy's debit cards have just been used, and his missing truck has also been located.
They've had a few different leads so far that haven't panned out yet, including the rumors that an ex-con named Jacob Locke could be connected to the crime.
But it's finding Tommy's abandoned truck that could potentially be the best clue yet.
The vehicle was located at the Greyhound bus station. We end up going down, seizing, bringing back to Lake City to process.
At the Columbia County Sheriff's Garage, CSIs scour it for potential evidence.
Unfortunately, they aren't able to find any clues that tell them who Tommy's killer is or what happened to Brenda Watson.
However, the bus station in Fort Lauderdale has also supplied investigators with surveillance video, which proves far more fruitful.
They see two individuals getting out of the vehicle, the male and female, both of them going inside the bus station, buying bus tickets.
The time on the footage is stamped at 5:22 a.m. on Monday, June 22nd, roughly 48 hours after Tommy Kellum's time of death as determined by the coroner. As for the male seen in the surveillance footage, detectives believe it is in fact Jacob Locke.
It looks like it.
They look at the man's face and compare it to his booking photos, and there's no doubt in detectives' minds The man getting out of Tommy Kellum's truck was Jacob Locke.
Unfortunately, the video quality is too poor for police to get a good look at the female suspect's face, so her identity remains a mystery.
But where are Jacob and the unidentified woman now? Had they fled on one of the Greyhound buses that night? To find out, detectives contact the bus station again and ask if they can speak with the clerk who was on duty at the time.
Hello? Yes, I'm Detective White with the Homicide Division, and I need to speak with the clerk that worked on the 22nd.
Yeah, I was working that night.
Lo and behold, the same clerk that was there, they're able to speak with him because he's there now.
Okay, do you remember a man and woman driving a red pickup truck?
When they question the clerk, it's clear he has a vivid memory of both Jacob and the mystery woman because they bought a bus ticket from him and were leaving in a hurry.
I do remember them.
The clerk tells them the woman threw him some keys, saying she didn't care if the truck got towed. The clerk was able to tell law enforcement that this woman was on her way to Toronto, Canada.
Really? Canada?
As for Jacob Locke, the clerk tells detectives he didn't board the bus to Toronto. A statement detectives confirm by cross-referencing another piece of the surveillance video from slightly later in the day. That footage shows Jacob Locke being picked up outside the station by a person driving a gold car, while Tommy Kellum's stolen truck is left behind in the parking lot.
Detectives have to track down this gold car that picked up Jacob Locke and also find this unidentified woman who got on a bus to Canada.
Luckily for detectives, the bus ride to Canada took 3 days. If they could find the bus and stop it before it got to the border, they could apprehend the woman if she's on board, which is a big if.
There's a lot of stops. You can get off the bus and go elsewhere. So just because we thought we knew where she was going didn't mean we could wait in Canada and wait for her to cross the border.
In order to keep tabs on the bus, investigators enlist the help of U.S. Marshals. As the Marshals work with the bus company to pinpoint its location, detectives in Florida turn their attention to finding the gold car. Again, using the bus station's surveillance footage, they are able to make out the vehicle's license plate and track down the owner.
Hello?
The owner of the gold car turns out to be a friend of Jacob Locke's.
When the man, Wayne Lewis, learns his car has been linked to a homicide investigation, he lets detectives know exactly where to find Jacob Locke.
He says he drove him to Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
But I don't know anything about a homicide.
Though this individual denies knowing of the homicide, police can't help but wonder if this person is the anonymous tipster.
To my knowledge, we've never known who it was. It's truly an anonymous reporting system, and so we don't know who called. Context tells us that he may have told someone and they reported.
Whether or not Wayne Lewis is in fact the anonymous tipster, his statement to police proves highly beneficial. Within a few hours of speaking with Wayne, Jacob Locke is located in Winston-Salem and arrested.
We charged him with theft of the vehicle that we knew he was associated with. We didn't charge him with murder because at the time we had a tip, but we didn't have any basis to believe he committed murder.
In his interview with detectives, Jacob Locke quickly catches on to the fact that he could be facing charges far more serious than grand theft auto.
At this point, Jacob Locke is being questioned heavily by police, and they're questioning what beef, if any, this ex-convict may have had with this old man.
Jacob is adamant he had nothing to do with Tommy's murder.
I know it don't look good or whatever, Lieutenant, but it ain't got nothing to do with that.
As for the identity of the woman seen with him at the bus station, Jacob is reluctant to reveal it. Investigators explain that until he gives them that name, he'll be looking at a possible murder charge.
It's not up to me. It's up to you.
How's it up to me?
You just need the whole truth.
With his back against the wall, Jacob decides to come clean.
He knows he's cornered, so he says, okay, here's what happened.
What's up, cuz?
He tells police he was at home in North Carolina 5 days earlier on Saturday, June 20th, when he got a surprise call from his cousin in Lake City, Florida.
What did she say when she called?
She said, when she called me, she said, Cole, what you doing? I said, nothing, I just got up. She said, Cole, come down here. I said, come down now.
You want me to come all the way down there?
I got on the bus Saturday night. I came down to Lake City. Sunday. I got down here Sunday between 10 and 11.
Jacob admits that he did go to Lake City from North Carolina, but investigators have so many questions, like who was his cousin? Could she be the woman on the bus headed to Canada? For what mysterious emergency did she need him to travel over 500 miles to Florida right away?
Investigators believe they are on the cusp of uncovering that information. But nothing can brace them for the horrible truth of what really happened to Tommy Kellum and Brenda Watson.
I look and I seen something wrapped in sheet.
No, hell no, no.
Fuck, get me the fuck away from here.
Detectives in Lake City, Florida are less than 48 hours into the investigation of the murder of 76-year-old Tommy Kellum. Now they are interviewing a man they believe to be connected to both Tommy's murder and his ex-wife Brenda Watson's disappearance.
Jacob Locke has admitted to police that he traveled down to Florida at the request of his cousin.
But that's not Jacob's only admission to detectives.
While he insists that he doesn't know Tommy Kellum, he admits that his cousin does.
So now law enforcement is asking Jacob Locke, who is your cousin? Who did you come down here to see? He says, my cousin is Brenda Watson.
According to Jacob, Brenda was the one who contacted him to come visit her in Florida.
More or less. He basically said, my cousin Brenda called me, sent me money, brought me down.
She picks him up at the Greyhound bus station.
Hey man, what you rush me down here for?
Don't worry about it. Get in. I'll tell you when we get there. Come on.
Jacob tells police that initially Brenda didn't explain why she needed him to come to Florida on such short notice. Instead, she took him to a nearby Walmart.
She goes and buys some gloves and some cleaning supplies.
When y'all were at Walmart and she purchased all this stuff, that didn't draw your attention to something being with you.
But Jacob says that when Brenda left Walmart and headed to the house she shared with Tommy Kellum, he realized something was very, very wrong.
Man, what are we doing here?
Don't worry about it. I'll tell you when we get inside. It's not a problem.
When I got to that door, and she was trying to get me in the inside, I said, hell no. I smelled a foul odor.
I need your help. Come on.
Jacob says Brenda ultimately coaxed him into the home. But he says the scene inside was even more disturbing than the smell.
I look and I seen something wrapped in sheet.
No, hell no, no, we have to go. No,
Come on, Jacob. Listen. Just, I know what this looks like. Let's listen to
No, you are out of your mind.
He freaks out because there's a dead guy there. And he starts going off on her like, you brought me here to be involved with a murder. The cleanest way I can say it, he's very upset.
Fuck, get me the fuck away from here.
I'm leaving, no.
That's when he demands to be taken back to his hotel. Then they get into an even bigger argument, saying, you know my past, you know my history, you know that I'm a convicted felon. Why would you bring me into this?
Me and Brenda close like that there, and then she trying to call she going down, now she gonna try to drag me into this bullshit. Come on, man.
Jacob freaked out and said, get me away from this. He wasn't having it, and then they fled back to her hometown of Fort Lauderdale, where she was catching a bus out of country.
However, Jacob claims that along the way, Brenda got rid of a bag full of guns. Guns Jacob knew belonged to Tommy Kellum.
The actual homicide weapon and possibly others were, the best we can tell, thrown into a lake somewhere between Lake City and Broward County.
Jacob states that after dumping the guns, he and Brenda drove through the night to the bus station in Fort Lauderdale. There, Brenda headed into the station's ticket office. That morning, after Brenda had already left in the bus, Jacob's friend Wayne Lewis picked him up in his gold car, and the two headed back to North Carolina.
Based on the video at the bus station in Fort Lauderdale, Jacob gets into a car and leaves, and she buys a bus ticket to Canada.
That confirms that Brenda Watson is the unidentified woman in the bus station surveillance video.
Jacob's statement largely dovetails with the evidence detectives have amassed from the crime scene and bus station. The following morning, they reduced the charges against Jacob to a misdemeanor and release him on his own recognizance. But not before they issue a warrant for Brenda Watson's arrest. The question now is, will law enforcement catch her before it's too late?
She's on a bus headed straight for Canada. It's a race against the clock to see if U.S. Marshals and federal agents can catch her before she crosses the border.
I was thinking she was going to get away with it.
It's been less than a week since 76-year-old Tommy Kellum was murdered in his own home, and U.S. Marshals are now canvassing the highways between Lake City, Florida and the Canadian border in hopes of tracking down the crime's key suspect, Brenda Watson.
She got on a bus, headed to Canada.
The marshals did be on the lookout for Miss Watson.
Though marshals aren't sure if Brenda is still on the bus in question, they have been able to locate its exact whereabouts, a station in Erie, Pennsylvania, less than 200 miles from the Canadian border. Thankfully, when marshals in Erie arrive at the station, they find Brenda there.
Brenda Watson, U.S. Marshals, put your hands above your head. Do it now.
She was intercepted at a stop in Erie, Pennsylvania, and booked into the jail there as a fugitive.
She doesn't even try to flee. They arrest her without incident.
I just remember being in such a shock that she was so far away. How she made her way up to Pennsylvania.
A violation of Brenda's prior probation allows officers to hold her in custody.
Because she was not supposed to leave the state of Florida after she shot Tommy Kellum earlier in the year.
There was a violation of probation warrant issued because of her absconding, basically running away.
But Brenda isn't interested in talking about her priors. Instead, she makes it clear to detectives that she's ready to talk about the murder of Tommy Kellum. That afternoon, detectives from Lake City travel over 1,000 miles to the Erie police station. By the time they get there, it appears Brenda Watson is ready to come clean.
After Denise Watson, in a sound mind and body, are guilty of taking the life of Mr. Tommy Lee Kellum.
First thing out of her mouth is, I killed Tommy. And I've got a statement.
Brenda tells detectives her and Tommy's plan for an open relationship seemed like a good idea at first. But over time, it was clear the two were jealous of one another's new lovers. So on the evening of June 19th, Brenda proposed what she thought was a solution. One that would bring her and Tommy back together once and for all.
Hey, baby. I was doing some thinking. When we get married again?
She said that she asked him, would he marry her again? And he said no.
It was just like, no. And oh, absolutely not.
He said that he wouldn't marry me, that he would marry a dog before he would marry me.
What do you mean, marry a dog?
That set her off. And then she had gone out to the club.
I told him that I was going out that night and that I was going to cook me something when I came home.
According to Brenda, she spent the next 3 hours drinking at a nearby nightclub before returning home around 2 a.m.
So she comes back to the home, decides to cook dinner, but Tommy is up in a rage. He's upset.
When I got home, he locked the door behind me.
Where you been?
I've been out with some friends.
And said that I was not cooking anything that night.
She had said that he cut off the electricity, wouldn't let her eat or cook any food.
I lit candles. Begged and pleaded with him to turn on the lights. And he ignored me.
During the hours that are passing, while she's just sitting in the dark, she begins to get wound up. And she hears Tommy coming out of his room and going to the restroom.
Brenda says it was at that point that her anger bubbled over into full-blown rage.
She's infuriated. She's upset. She had been drinking, and he's not going to marry her because she's no better than a dog. And that gets her boiling.
I went to the gun rack and got the first gun I could feel. When he opened the door to the restroom, I pushed the trigger.
Brenda tells police she fired 4 shots in total, and all 4 of her shots were direct hits.
He was shot several times. And when she shot him the last time, she shot my father in the head. It was overkill.
He fell, and I dumped the gun in a bag and left.
Brenda says that when she returned home an hour later, the reality of what she'd done began to sink in, and she began plotting a way to cover her tracks.
She called Jacob. She picks him up at the Greyhound bus station. They go back to the residence. He sees what's going on.
I showed him what I did. He gave me his opinion, and I left. Me and him rode to South Florida.
It's a shocking confession, one that dovetails with the statement given by Jacob Locke.
So the stories of Brenda Watson and Jacob Locke, her cousin, are completely identical. She tells them he didn't want anything to do with this and that she acted alone.
Ultimately, he cooperated with us, and that was reduced to basically trespass and no real sanctions.
Still, for detectives, there's one huge mystery hovering over the case. If Brenda truly shot Tommy in self-defense, why did she flee?
I got on a Greyhound bus to Canada in search of proper representation because I felt I wouldn't get a fair trial. I'm not a killer. I tried my best to leave Tommy, but every time he come and get me.
Whether or not Brenda was justified in shooting Tommy Kellum is a decision for the courts.
Our detectives went up and talked to her. She was charged with first-degree murder.
As her arraignment approaches, investigators for the DA's office dig further into the couple's history. Casting further doubt on Brenda's story is Tommy's family, who insist that Brenda was free to come and go from the house as she pleased.
She had so many chances just to leave. And you're so unhappy, leave.
Why did she keep coming back? I can honestly tell you, my daddy kept her suitcase packed up in the living room for 6 months.
Brenda's abuse claims aren't convincing to a judge and jury either. At her trial in July of 2012, Brenda's defense team claims that she killed Tommy in self-defense.
The way she put it was she was not guilty because of battered woman syndrome.
According to Brenda's claims, Tommy repeatedly beat her and held her against her will.
But as prosecutors rightly point out, the only documented incident of violence between the couple was instigated by Brenda, not Tommy.
Ironically, the only violent incident on record they could find is when Brenda accidentally shot Tommy in the foot.
If you believe the defendant, Miss Watson, he yelled and was mean to her, but the best I can tell, she was violent towards him.
On July 17, 2012, the jury finds Brenda guilty of second-degree murder, not first.
The judge found her guilty of killing her, with depraved mind, but the evidence didn't meet premeditation.
The lesser charge carries a lesser punishment, and the judge sentences her to 30 years.
And she should have got more, but I don't think she's gonna live 30 years. Every night she go to bed, she lay down and see my uncle. I know she do.
Even though Brenda Watson is behind bars, it's a measure of justice that won't bring back the kind and loving family patriarch the Kellums lost that fateful June day.
My dad didn't deserve to die the way he died. Nobody deserves that.
I learned a lot from him, and really do miss him as a stable position in our family and in my life. He is missed.
When a young woman and a 4-year-old boy suddenly vanish, a community bands together to find them.
Everywhere you went, people were searching for what happened to this young lady and this child.
There was a lot of media attention.
The search would take investigators on a cross-country journey before plunging them into a secret world of a deadly cult.
His control was total with him.
The children don't speak. The women call him Lord.
There was a lot of group sex involved.
But the bizarre sexual rituals are just the tip of the iceberg.
He was able to trigger something inside them that made them not only depend on him, but tolerate murder.
I think in this situation, you can love someone so much that it ends up costing your life.
February 2011. It's a cold, quiet evening in Durham, North Carolina. That is, until a frantic young woman bursts into a downtown police station.
She's a pregnant African-American teenager, and she walks into the Durham Police Department.
She was scared. She was crying.
Please, I need your help. There's crazy things going on.
Okay, sweetheart, slow down. Tell me what's going on.
She tells the desk officer that she escaped from a cult and basically tells it's out in the southern part of Durham.
Oh, yes. It's just crazy things are going on right now.
She told them about this house of horrors that she lived in, where multiple women are impregnated. This man is hurting them and making them have sex with one another.
But according to this young woman, the group sex, the forced pregnancies, that wasn't even the half of it. The real reason she had to get away from this cult was even more shocking.
She reported that she escaped after one of the children, a 4-year-old boy, had been murdered.
Mark, I have a young lady here I think you're going to be interested in speaking to. It's just going to be a minute, okay?
Okay.
It was just so outlandish that it couldn't have been possible.
It was a little fishy, and they decided to investigate a little bit further.
Little do they know, in looking into this young woman's claims, investigators are about to open a Pandora's box of unimaginable horror. One in which they will investigate not only the alleged murder of a child, but the inexplicable disappearance of a young woman named Antoinetta McCoy.
I was just like hoping like this is none of this really happened, but it did. It happened.
Antoinetta McCoy was born in 1983 and grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Washington, D.C., with a loving mother and 2 siblings.
Growing up, we didn't have a lot of the physical things that we may have seen other people with, but we had like a bond. We had like spiritual fruitfulness amongst one another.
Antoinetta was quiet. She kept to herself, read her Bible a lot.
I never seen her with a regular book. Even in her bed, she slept in the bed with like 3 Bibles at one time. She was really into it, like it was her thing.
In high school, Antoinetta's religious devotion and introverted personality made her the quintessential wallflower.
Antoinetta was one of the individuals that were outcasts from like the in crowd.
But Antoinetta didn't go completely unnoticed in high school. One young man went out of his way to befriend her. His name was Peter Moses Jr.
Hey, what's going on? Nothing much. I was just talking to them, man, and all they talking about is partying and football and all that. It's not like about you, man, because it's more to life than that.
Really? They had a lot of similarities. He was a very quiet individual. They were both into their education. They stood out from the rest. And I think that's probably what drew them to one another.
For 2 outsiders like Antoinetta and Peter, their friendship was a godsend. But it soon morphed into something much more.
It wasn't long before the 2 became high school sweethearts.
Like so many young couples before them, life pulled Peter and Antoinetta in opposite directions after high school.
Peter's family moved from Washington, D.C. to Durham, North Carolina. That move and the distance proved to be an insurmountable hurdle for the relationship.
After high school, they broke up. I mean, it does happen.
Over the next 9 years, Antoinetta focused on her spiritual and professional life.
After high school, she went directly into the working world.
She got a great job. She was thriving as a campus security officer, and she was active in a church.
But while everything seemed to be going well for Antoinetta, the breakup with Peter left a hole in her heart that she longed to fill.
She dated, here and there, but nothing too serious. Finding love for Antoinetta was very important for her because she wanted a family of her own. So she still had faith that there's nothing too big for God.
But the more true love seemed to elude her, the more Antoinetta's faith was tested, especially when a routine visit to the doctor yielded some truly crushing news.
Netta found out that she could not have children. It was the most devastating thing for her ever. Netta went through time periods of depression and sadness because that's all she ever thought about was being a mother.
It's always heartbreaking for a woman who wants to have children to be told she cannot have kids. And she prayed on this many nights.
But in January of 2010, just as Antoinetta seemed to hit rock bottom, she received a message on social media that looked like the answer to her prayers.
DeAndre!
What?
Guess who contacted me? Peter Moses.
Your old boyfriend from high school?
Yeah.
Netta was excited about reconnecting with him, and eventually they set a date for him to come up and meet with her, which he did. And then they had spoke about her coming to visit him.
It was a trip that would change Antoinetta's life.
Hi, Peter.
This house was a 5,000 square foot home in a really nice neighborhood, 2-car garage.
Look at the sea. I was driving up and I can't believe how beautiful your house is. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Peter explained that he shared the home with his extended family.
I live here with my aunts. I live upstairs and they live downstairs.
Antoinetta spent that afternoon getting to know Peter's family. During that visit, the bond they had shared in high school was instantly reignited.
He told her she was beautiful and she felt affirmed by him.
For the next few months, Antoinetta traveled back and forth between her job in D.C. and Peter's home in Durham. Then in the summer of 2010, Peter said the words Antoinetta had been waiting her entire adult life to hear.
I think we should get married.
Really?
Yeah, like, will you marry me?
Yes.
She told her family, I have finally found the man of my dreams.
Netta was very happy because you've been praying for specific things, and then these things just come from out of nowhere.
So she packs her things and she hits the road for Durham, North Carolina.
It was presumed that they would live happily ever after.
But for Antoinetta McCoy, this fairy tale was about to take a very strange and mysterious turn. One that would not only give her family cause for concern, but would ultimately connect Antoinetta with that frightened young woman in the Durham police station, the one who claimed a young child had been murdered.
It was just shocking that all of these cases were linked.
It was hard to fathom that something this evil could happen to people in such a peaceful place.
In the summer of 2010, after reuniting with her high school sweetheart Peter Moses, 28-year-old Antoinetta McCoy feels like she's living a fairy tale.
They reconnected via Facebook, and they were communicating via Facebook for a while.
She finally saw the man of her dreams. He also has a house. He has all these established things that she's not used to experiencing with men up in D.C. And she was taken. For once, she felt like she fit in.
She left her home in Washington, D.C., to move with Peter Moses in his home in Durham, North Carolina.
Everything was phenomenal.
But then, shortly after Thanksgiving, Antoinetta falls off the radar.
They did not hear from her for weeks, and that was different from her normal routine.
We got the happy Thanksgiving text and all that. Christmas, nothing. When my mother's birthday pays, that's when I knew for a fact without a shadow of doubt, this is not making sense. My mother and my sister were like best friends.
For more than a month, calls to Antoinetta's cell phone go unanswered. On February 1st, 2011, Antoinetta's family contacts the D.C. Police Department.
Etienne? Yes, I want to file a missing person report on my sister, Antoinetta McCoy.
Typically, you file a missing persons report where you last saw the person, which is why Antoinetta's family filed a report in D.C., though they thought she may have last been in Durham.
Early on, an investigation of a missing person will include interviewing people who reported her missing and going from there to get information about who else they hang with.
Okay, is she married? No, she's engaged. Have you tried to contact her fiance? Yes, I tried contacting him.
Peter did not once pick up the phone and call me back. And so that drew a red flag for me.
Later that day, missing persons investigators reach out to Peter Moses. What Peter tells them seems plausible.
Peter told investigators that she left on her own because she was upset about an issue with money.
Have you talked with her family at all?
You know, it wasn't my place to tell her family that we wasn't together no more. They thought that's something she would do.
He thought she went back to Washington.
To police, Peter's explanation seems reasonable. They know that in cases like Antoinetta's, people don't always contact family right away. They may need time to think, or they may be too embarrassed to admit that the relationship fell apart so quickly.
But to be sure that Antoinetta is safe, investigators take another step to locate her.
The authorities in Washington, D.C. put out an APB, an all-points bulletin in regards to Antoinetta being missing.
They gave a good description of what she was last known to be wearing, how tall she was, her complexion, the type of hairstyle, and her last known whereabouts.
While D.C. police continue their search for Antoinetta, 250 miles away in Durham, investigators are puzzling over another case, the bizarre claims of a young pregnant woman named Tanya Henry.
Tanya shows up at the Durham police station and she is terrified. What she has to tell them is not only outrageous, it's disturbing.
Start with the crazy stuff that you say is going on. I mean, we want to help you.
She said she was part of a cult, that a child had been killed, placed in a suitcase, and stuck up in the attic.
You were witness to these things?
Yes.
The address that she gave for the location of this cult was in a more upscale area of Durham, which is why this story was so unbelievable.
Still, in the interest of public safety, detectives have a responsibility to investigate.
There was a detective that was working that evening that took the information and started to do some basic follow-up on it.
The next morning, two detectives pull up to the well-manicured home. An attractive woman in her mid-20s, who identifies herself as Vanya Sisk, answers the door.
Can I help you?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry to bother you. We're from the Durham Police Department. We had an eyewitness that there was a situation we need to check out over here.
Okay.
It was said there was a body in your attic.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
That's crazy. You mind if we come in and take a look around?
No, of course not.
Police officers actually go to the attic. You know, they look around and they didn't see anything wrong.
But before leaving, detectives make one additional request.
Are there any kids who live here?
Yes, there are. May we see them? Sure.
The children were all in a bedroom from infant size to 5 or 6 years old.
They're in here, ma'am?
Yes. Hi.
How many kids live here?
8. Are you the mother of all of these children? No, there are 2 other ladies that live here, Lavada and LaRonda. LaRonda has 5 and I have 3.
Vania basically explains that all of these women wanted to live in this house all together. They could pool their resources, they could live there comfortably, they liked the neighborhood, and it was enough space for all of their children.
You guys are good?
To detectives, this hardly seems like the bloodthirsty cult described by Tanya Henry.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They were, for lack of a better term, ordinary women.
Which raises an obvious question. Could Tanya have invented her story because she has an axe to grind with these women?
The detectives had no idea what she could have had against these people, but given the shocking nature of the allegations and no obvious proof behind them, they had to wonder.
With no evidence of a crime, it would seem Tanya's story is nothing more than the ramblings of a troubled young woman.
She seems so off-kilter that she could have been mentally unstable. It's possible that she may have something against one of the women who live in the house, or is making the story up. Really, any of these situations are more likely than a murder at the house where the detectives just came from.
But in the days to come, a startling discovery would prompt police to take another look at the unsuspecting home on Pear Tree Lane and the seemingly kind-hearted women who live there.
It's unbelievable to think things like that happen in our society, or any society for that matter.
After an unnerving exchange with 16-year-old Tanya Henry, police in Durham, North Carolina have searched a home on Pear Tree Lane in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Tanya claims the residence is home to a deadly cult and that the cult's members were hiding the body of a 4-year-old boy in their attic. But what detectives find inside doesn't exactly gel with Tanya's story.
This was a nice middle-class home in the middle of southeast Durham. There was no sign of any violence, there was no body in the attic, and the children appeared well taken care of.
It seemed like perhaps Tanya had an axe to grind with all of these women.
But as the days roll by, one of the detectives who searched the home begins to have second thoughts.
Did it seem weird to you in there with those kids? They were quiet. They were still. They just don't act like any kids I've ever been around.
These detectives were at the house for an hour, and these children sat in this room, totally reverent, not speaking, not moving around, not fidgeting.
That just seems unheard of for children of that age.
She got very curious about it and started doing a little digging.
Social services in their community had reported to the police and had in their records that there were a total of 9 children that should have been in that home.
There should be 9, not 8.
So the question became, what happened to that 9th child?
On February 20th, detectives returned to the residence on Pear Tree Lane, hoping to account for the 9th child.
Social service records states that there should be 9 children living here. But earlier when we met with you, you said it was 8.
Right.
Where's the other child?
My oldest son, Jaden, he sometimes stays with his babysitter.
You have a phone number you can give us?
Of course.
Where's Jaden's father?
He lives in Atlanta. We're divorced.
And what about the other children? Where are their fathers?
Actually, he lives here with us.
They all have the same father?
Yes.
He had 3 different women in his mind that he was married to, and all of these women lived together, and they all had children.
He was never legally married to any of these women. They consider themselves his wives because they live together with him in unity.
It's a revelation made all the more troubling by the fact that it mirrors some of the claims made by Tanya Henry the night she arrived at the downtown station begging for help.
Tanya had said that multiple women were having sex with one man. So this admission by Vania, Lavada, and LaRonda seems to corroborate at least part of Tanya's statement.
Detectives pressed the women for more details about their plural marriage. Turns out their bond is religious in nature.
They consider themselves all Black Hebrew Israelites, which holds that African Americans are the true descendants of the ancient Israelites. Like any religion, the beliefs of the Black Hebrew Israelites vary from group to group. Some are more mainstream, some are more extreme.
Some Black Hebrew Israelites believe that pretty soon there's going to be a race war, and the African Americans are basically going to be the supreme race over all other races.
According to these women, their husband, who they referred to as Lord, not only believed in the coming race war, but also polygamy, which put him at the very extreme end of the Black Hebrew Israelites' belief system.
Where's your husband now? Is he working? Where is he?
He's out on the air, and our Lord doesn't work.
The women refer to him as my Lord.
Women would go out and earn money and bring it back and give it to him.
They also have social support through welfare and stuff like that.
It is clear that this family has some religious beliefs that are outside of the mainstream. Does it mean that they're capable of murdering a child? That is way over the top.
The best way to get the answers they're looking for is to find this 9th child, Jaden Higginbotham.
What raised yet another red flag was that when the detectives checked the number that Vania gave for Jaden's babysitter, the number was disconnected.
It was quite apparent to the police investigators that she was trying to cover up critical information from them about where this little boy could have been. They knew that it was something going on in that home. What they didn't know is exactly what.
With their suspicions mounting, detectives decide it's time to expand their investigation.
They canvassed the area to see if there were any witnesses that had seen the boy recently or noticed anything suspicious.
Though no one has information on the child in question, one neighbor reveals that she did witness something odd outside the home the previous December.
I saw a young lady running outside in her nightgown and a couple of girls running after her.
She's like, yeah, I remember this girl coming running and these women coming running and tackling her in my front yard.
Then a man came out and they all just settled down and went back inside.
He began to direct the women to bring this woman back to the house, and they eventually took her back into the home.
Detectives show the neighbor photos of the 3 women living in the home and also of Tanya Henry. But she says that the woman that she saw running from the house was someone else.
You didn't think about calling the cops?
No, because I thought it was some type of group home for bad girls or something.
The neighbor just thought it was a situation where you had this mentally ill or mentally challenged person that had escaped from this group home.
But who is this mystery woman? And where is 4-year-old Jaden Higginbotham? As the days roll by, those questions continue to gnaw at detectives.
It's just like overload. And everyone's sitting there looking like, man, something's going on there.
On March 3, 2011, less than a month into their investigation, authorities officially declared Jaden Higginbotham a missing person. Without concrete evidence of a crime, investigators pressed forward and hit pay dirt through the missing persons database.
Some information on this case was put into a database that goes nationwide, and a detective in D.C. picked up on it through that system. So that detective got in touch with the officer here in Durham.
He was working on a missing persons case involving a woman, and he said that his case might be linked to the missing child case they were working on.
The detective in D.C. said he was investigating the disappearance of Antoinetta McCoy.
But what did Antoinetta McCoy have to do with the polygamous sect of Black Hebrew Israelites, or the case of a missing child? When detectives begin to unlock the truth, no one can believe what they find.
It is repulsive. It's repulsive.
This is just unbelievable.
You can't make this stuff up.
The investigation of a polygamous cult in Durham, North Carolina has yielded a startling discovery. That 4-year-old Jaden Higginbotham is missing and may be dead. At least if self-proclaimed former cult member Tanya Henry is to be believed.
After detectives in North Carolina uploaded information to a national database about Jaden's case, a detective in Washington, D.C. saw the information, and he thought that it probably could be related to the disappearance of 28-year-old Antoinetta McCoy.
But what makes investigators so sure Antoinetta's disappearance is related to that of 4-year-old Jaden?
According to Antoinetta's family, she was living with Peter Moses and his extended family in a Durham suburb on Pear Tree Lane.
When Durham detectives get the address of Peter's house, it's a match.
It was the same address that the detectives were investigating regarding the disappearance of Jaden Higginbotham.
Detectives are thinking that Peter Moses' so-called extended family could be these 3 women who claim they share a husband, and that the man they refer to as Lord could be Peter Moses.
Could Antoinetta have escaped and taken Jaden with her in order to protect him? It seems plausible.
With so many X factors at play, Durham police appoint Detective Charles Soule to head up the investigation. For Soul and his team, the first step is to sit down with the alleged former cult member, Tanya Henry.
Tanya, we are trying to figure out what happened to Jaden Higginbotham, but we're also trying to figure out what happened to a woman who was supposedly engaged to Peter Moses.
Okay.
Now, when you were living in Peter's home, do you remember another woman named Antoinetta McCoy?
Yes, I do.
And do you know where Antoinetta is now?
Yes, I do, actually.
According to Tanya, when Antoinetta moved in, she did not realize that Peter was in a polygamous relationship with her and 3 other women. But it didn't take her long to figure it out. Antoinetta was so desperate for love and to have a family that she was willing to accept this if it meant that she could be with Peter.
Who's your Lord?
You are.
That's right.
But according to Tanya, while Antoinetta may have begrudgingly accepted the polygamous aspect of her and Peter's relationship, she had grave concerns about the religious doctrine Peter was preaching.
Antoinetta was raised in the church. Some of the things that Peter Moses was preaching was very inconsistent with her knowledge of the Bible.
Tanya tells detectives that nothing made Antoinetta more uncomfortable than when Peter turned his preachings to 4-year-old Jaden, Vanya's son from a previous relationship.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Jaden is a curse to this family.
Black Hebrew Israelites are strongly against homosexuality, and Jaden's father was openly gay.
The other people in the house were under the impression that he possibly could have been gay because his father was gay, and they shunned on that. The other people in the house were afraid to show him extra love because of what Peter was enforcing. Annetta took up extra time with him. The love that he was lacking from his own mother, she provided him with that love.
Tanya says Antoinetta's affection for Jaden didn't sit well with his mother, Vanya Sis.
Vanya could not take Antoinetta because she didn't have the courage to love her child. But my sister did.
Antoinetta was somewhat being cast out of their fellowship, if you will.
Tanya says that in early November, Antoinetta went to visit her family. When she returned a few days later, young Jaden was nowhere to be found.
It was as if he'd been erased from the family.
She was giving conflicting stories about what happened to him.
According to Tanya, a few weeks later, Antoinetta learned the horrible truth.
She overheard one of the women speaking about his death. That's how she found out that Jaden was ultimately killed.
I'm just so glad it wasn't me and that Peter was able to kill him, because I don't think I could.
She really, really lost it at that point.
Get her! Go!
She actually ran out of the house. And Pete basically instructed these women, you better go get her.
There was no way that he was going to let her leave.
Get down!
This story is particularly chilling because this confirms that Antoinetta was the woman seen running from the house back in December.
So, Tanya, what exactly happened when they brought her back in the house?
They killed her.
And why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you call the police?
Because I was afraid they would kill me too.
Tanya explains to investigators how Antoinetta was brutally beaten and ultimately shot to death that night in December.
She told detectives that after that night, she feared for her own safety. She decided to lay low for a few weeks until she could finally escape and come forward.
Based on the information that we had from Tanya, 1 of 3 search warrants was executed at the home.
But when detectives knock on the door, there's no answer. Upon gaining entry, they are shocked to discover the house is empty.
They're gone.
All of their belongings are gone.
They had left. They're in flee mode.
But where had Peter Moses, his 3 wives, and their 8 children gone? Before police can answer that question, they make another horrific discovery.
He believed in what he was doing. He was passionate about it. And the women gassed him up. They were his fuel.
Police in Durham, North Carolina are on the hunt for polygamous cult leader Peter Moses, along with his 3 remaining wives and their 8 children.
Detectives had reason to believe that Peter and his 3 wives may be responsible for the disappearance and alleged murders of 28-year-old Antoinetta McCoy and 4-year-old Jaden Higginbotham. But when they executed the search warrant on the home, everyone was gone.
While one team of investigators works to track down Peter and his family, another begins a search of the vacant home.
They left some stuff behind, huh?
They had moved out, but they had left stuff. A lot of trash.
What is this?
What is it?
It looks like a diary. Check this out.
We also found journals from Antoinetta. She wrote a lot. And in those journals, she talked about like her torment and struggle with what was going on.
When Antoinetta moved to Durham, she believed that Peter was the perfect man. But soon after moving in, she came to learn the real truth.
The whole family is having dinner, and that's when Peter drops the bomb on her. He tells her, these are not my aunts, these are not my cousins, they're actually my wives and my children.
He had them disguised as his aunts to lure her in.
Even though in this particular situation, Peter had other wives, she could be his wife. And that's something that she wanted, and they actually went through a complete ceremony.
She gets dolled up in a white dress, she gets to walk down the aisle and marry the man of her dreams.
Though Antoinetta's journal details a few fleeting moments of happiness with the family's children, particularly young Jaden, it also reveals tremendous suffering at the hands of a sexual predator.
They were forced to sleep with each other and sleep with him as many times as he wanted.
You do not have to be highly intelligent or educated to control someone's mind. You have to give them what they want. And for humans need praise. If you give them what they need, you can begin to control their mind. And by doing that, you're controlling their behavior.
Peter was very selective with the women he invited to live with him. They all had self-esteem issues, and he knew how to manipulate and exploit that.
I'm just to be completely honest, she had a lot of insecurities.
Antoinette, because she had low self-esteem, was certainly subject to being victimized by Pete Moses.
When Peter's mind games didn't work, he would resort to violence to keep his wives in line.
He used physical punishment as the impetus for getting them to acquiesce to what he wanted.
According to Antoinetta's journal, rather than blaming Peter for the physical and emotional abuse he inflicted, Antoinetta blamed herself.
She really did think it was her fault that he was beating her or that he was sexually unsatisfied with her, which according to the journal was true, at least when it came to Antoinetta's inability to have children.
In those journals, she also had like pleas in there to him, like, my Lord, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Because one of the things with Antoinetta was that she couldn't reproduce.
When Peter found that out, he was not happy about it.
As heartbreaking as Antoinetta's diary is, it's not the most telling discovery detectives make inside the house.
We turn your flashlights off, please.
There was evidence that corroborated that a serious assault or a murder had occurred.
There was blood found in the garage. There was evidence of blood in the bathroom. There was a bullet lodged in a location in the bathroom. And there was a shell casing found in the house.
We found Jaden's baby book with his inked impressions of his feet and pictures of him when he was newborn that no mother would abandon. That convinced me that, Jaden was gone.
While the circumstantial evidence continues to mount, it's what detectives don't find that concerns them the most.
They thoroughly searched the house and the property, but there were no bodies found anywhere.
So if Antoinetta and Jaden were killed, where were their bodies?
Durham police issue a nationwide bolo alert for Peter and his wives. 4 days later, a tip comes in from Vanya Sisk's hometown of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
They go to Colorado and secure somewhere to live. And during that time, Vanya runs into Jaden's grandmother in a store, and she confronts Vanya and calls 911.
According to Jaden's grandmother, Peter, his 3 wives, and the 8 surviving children are all living at a house on the west side of town. Within hours, a team of officers descends on the family's new home. A police search of the house and the surrounding area yields even more evidence of criminal activity.
The police found a .22 caliber weapon on the roof of a townhome there in Colorado, and they were able to match that weapon up using ballistics and forensics to the bullet shell casing and to the bullets that was found in the home in which they initially lived.
After officers ensure that all 8 children are alive and well, they arrest Peter Moses and extradite him to North Carolina. There, prosecutors make the difficult decision not to charge Peter with murder, but rather with 2 counts of kidnapping.
While there was evidence of an assault and possibly murder, it's a lot easier to prove the kidnapping without the body than, of course, to prove the homicide without the body.
Meanwhile, back in Colorado, Peter's 3 wives, Vanya Sisk, Lavada Harris, and LaRonda Smith, are allowed to remain free.
It was kind of the theory of like separating the head from the snake, and he was incarcerated. And we figured eventually, they would find no reason to cooperate.
But even with Peter behind bars in North Carolina, the three women remain unwavering in their devotion to him.
We monitored his phone calls because they were very intent on calling him. And on these calls, he would still exert control over them. And they would individually get on the phone and each tell him, I love you, I love you. His control was total with them. None of them gave him up in their statements.
Over the next few months, under the strain of the investigation, the women's financial situation begins to crumble. But they never hesitate to make Peter their top priority.
They actually would drive to Raleigh, North Carolina, and give their blood for like $60 for a donation. And they'd bring it back and put it in his jail canteen so he could get different things. These ladies were devout. Their kids were in the custody of the Department of Social Services. And when we asked them, who do you love more, your children or Pete? There was hesitation. There was, these kind of things just were baffling to me.
With Vania, Lavada, and LaRonda refusing to turn on their beloved leader, prosecutors face an uphill battle.
Without a body, it's very hard to prove that a crime was even committed, let alone a homicide or a murder.
Desperate for new leads, Durham authorities elicit the public's help.
Law enforcement were making it as public as possible to get whatever help they could get. There was a lot of media attention in the entire area.
The news coverage of this case went way past Durham. Everywhere you went, people were searching for what happened to this young lady and this child.
We had resources from a great organization, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Their resources are enormous, based out of Northern Virginia and D.C. area. They have a group called Team Adam, which responds with physical resources and has experts in research on graves and shallow graves. So we ran the gamut with this.
They had like massive hunts. They had large teams looking for the bodies. They had dog hunt and everything. There was a lot of tax dollars spent on the retrieval of these missing bodies.
Nearly 4 months pass and the bodies of Antoinetta McCoy and Jaden Higginbotham are still nowhere to be found. Then on June 8th, 2011, there's an unexpected break in the case.
This plumber was digging beside the home to try to get to one of the pipes leading to the home, I guess to conduct some type of repair. As he continued to dig, he came across a bag, and then that smell, that foul odor, was emanating from that bag. He knew right away what possibly was in that bag. It was either a human being or an animal. In either case, he decided to alert the authorities.
We had all kinds of electronic and physical surveillance on these folks. And one of the addresses that was significant to our surveillance is this address, because it was a prior residence for them.
When investigators peer inside the buried bag, there's no doubting its contents.
The bag contained a woman's decomposing remains.
They confirmed that it was Antoinetta's body.
So tragic. This woman was left to rot in a bag behind a house.
Over the next 24 hours, officers excavate the surrounding area, hoping to find 4-year-old Jaden's body.
We used some electronic, like ultrasonic, x-raying the ground, density type of stuff. And it was kind of an anomaly.
About 15 feet away from where her body was found, they came across the remains of Jaden. He was actually wrapped in a baby blanket, his own baby blanket.
The discovery of the bodies also yields physical evidence implicating the family in both murders.
The bodies were wrapped in plastic and tape. Fingerprints found on the tape matched that of Pete Moses and Lavada.
Ballistics found from Antoinetta's shooting matched the ballistic evidence of the gun found in Colorado.
We were able to get an arrest warrant, and we started picking the folks up throughout that day and that evening.
With the entire cult now in custody, detectives believe it's just a matter of time before one of them breaks their code of silence regarding the crimes. But perhaps the biggest shock is who among them decides to sing first.
Everyone was in disbelief.
That's what cowards do. All talk and no bite.
On June 10th, 2011, after discovering the decomposing bodies of 28-year-old Antoinetta McCoy and 4-year-old Jaden Higginbotham in the backyard of an otherwise unassuming residence, police in Durham, North Carolina have officially charged polygamous cult leader Peter Moses with murder, along with his 3 wives, Vania Sisk, Lavada Harris, and LaRonda Smith.
This was huge news in Durham.
Shortly after the arrests are made public, Durham County prosecutors announce they will be seeking the death penalty against all 4 defendants.
The death penalty was definitely in play because of his premeditation and deliberation.
But even before the trial begins, Peter Moses' defense team begins laying the groundwork for an insanity defense.
At the age of 10, Peter was taken into a mental health facility for suicidal ideation, which led to the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, a mood disorder characterized by mood swings. Sometimes you're very, very, very high, euphoric, and then there's times when you're very, very low. The defense attorneys speculated that the bipolar disorder was the trigger to his violent behavior that resulted in Antoinetta's death.
It's a claim Antoinetta McCoy's friends and family find unbelievable.
He knew exactly everything he was doing. It had nothing to do with bipolar.
There are plenty of people that suffer from bipolar disorder, and they're not homicidal maniacs. They don't go around shooting 4-year-olds execution style.
But even as they face the death penalty, Peter's 3 wives continue to stand behind him.
The wives refused to give up any information that would incriminate Peter Moses.
However, as the case makes its way toward trial, it becomes clear that Peter Moses doesn't share the same devotion to his wives as they do to him.
His attorneys reached out and said, Peter wants to make a deal.
The case didn't even go to trial. Peter took the plea deal, and as a result, he's serving 2 consecutive life sentences where he could have faced a death penalty. Peter told everything. He explained in detail how these murders happened, and he also made sure to say that his wives had a hand in this.
It was up to the other women. I said, yo, you want to kill her? And they raised their hand and said, yeah.
When we were talking about cooperating with him, it was a deal with the devil.
But in cases like this, if a defendant is willing to plead to a significant sentence, it makes sense to avoid trial.
This man preyed on these women, convinced them to follow him, and even kill for him. And they're still defending him. And he turned on them without a second thought.
I had the displeasure of talking to him for multiple hours when he confessed. He wasn't at all remorseful. Like a sociopath. Someone that could kill you and not think twice about it. Very disturbing.
Peter calmly lays out the details of 4-year-old Jaden's murder.
It was brought to Pete's attention that Jaden had touched one of the kids on his bottom.
Peter Moses felt as though Jaden may grow up to be homosexual because at 4 years old, he touched the buttocks of another one of the children living in the home.
Like when you gay, you gotta die.
He said he got in this fit of rage and he was pacing upstairs what he was going to do.
Peter says that's when he ordered the women out of the room.
So he got his gun, he grabbed Jaden and shot him in the back of the head. Obviously any murder is horrific, but a child, just multiplies it. And Jaden wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just a kid being a kid.
He went to Vania and shared with her that he shot her 4-year-old in the back of the head. He said that she just cried a little bit. She stopped crying. They went and had sex. And then the next thing you know, it's go on with your life. Just like that. After Peter killed the 4-year-old boy, he instructed the women to clean up the blood, clean up the area, put the body in a briefcase or suitcase and take it and sit it in the attic.
What stood out to me the most was that someone can have that much control over people and their minds that they control their behavior.
But for prosecutors, it was Antoinetta's violent murder that demonstrated just how much control Peter Moses exerted over his wives.
When Antoinetta learned that Jaden was killed, she made a desperate attempt to leave the house. When Peter learned that she had tried to escape, he had the other women of the house bring her back.
Hey, bring her ass inside.
Peter physically beat Antoinetta and made the other women of the house watch. They later joined in.
They tortured her. They urinated on her.
They tried to strangle her with an extension cord.
Don't let nobody get between family. You get what I'm saying?
It was a torturous situation that went on there. And then eventually, according to Pete, Vania shot her in the head.
She obviously was willing to go to just about any height to protect Pete from facing justice for killing her son, to the point where she was willing and did kill Antoinetta.
Once the 3 wives learn that their lord, Peter Moses, has turned on them, they all come clean about their involvement.
All the women in this case, pled guilty to murder. They all pled into significant sentences.
LaRonda received a sentence in the neighborhood of a minimum of 23 and a half years. Lavada pled guilty to accessory after the fact, and in total received a minimum sentence of 12 years. Vanya, 6, received a sentence of a minimum of 30 years.
If I could say anything to Vanya, I would tell her I feel pity for her. And Pete Moses, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are a poor, ridiculous excuse for a human being. And I hope you get everything that you deserve in life. Everything.
And though nothing can bring back Antoinetta and Jaden, their story serves as a cautionary tale about what happens when those who feel they are not worthy of another's love cross paths with someone willing to exploit those feelings for their own twisted motives.
Antoinetta is like all of us. All we want is to be loved, to be married, and to have a family of our own. However, Peter never loved her. All he wanted to do was to manipulate her and to control her.
Peter Moses literally believed that he had the power of God. Unfortunately, these women believed and followed him. That was very tragic, because in the end, Peter was nothing more than a false prophet, a manipulative, cold-blooded murderer.
It's sad, but that's the world that we live in, a sad one. It's not even the world, it's the people.
Sadly, there will always be extremists in any religion. And in this case, the result was the abuse and eventual death of 2 innocent people.